Namaste everyone, how's it going? So, what I have decided to do is that we start talking about all the things which form the content of this YouTube channel, because there will be some time which would be needed to explain the free man concept and the university and the brotherhood. But in the meanwhile, I also want to start sharing my thoughts and start bringing back the old kind of English videos that we used to do. So, today we are going to talk about the worst thing about depression. And there's a reason why I'm going to do this, because I have been struggling with this particular condition myself now since almost 7 years, 6, 7 years by now. And the truth of the matter is that I have not been able to sort myself out yet. I have not been able to cure myself yet. Because I do believe that a major portion of healing something like this comes from your own effort. Like, you will only be the one who will have the major hand in curing this particular condition for yourself. So, before I get into this, couple of things. First of all, I'm not a doctor. Secondly, the advice that I'm going to share is just something which I have started doing, because this worst thing about depression is something which comes in to your relations with your close ones, all right? Whether it is the people you work with, whether it is your family, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, somebody like that. And I have been struggling with handling this worst thing. So what do I mean? I think I have matured within the depressive state as well over the past few years, all right? Because I have been onto the medication. I've never taken the therapy side, which I should, but I have been on the medication side. I have been having it for a while now. I did a couple of tests also with the psychologist and stuff like that. Anyway, keeping all of that aside, the one thing which stays with you throughout is your own handling of this situation. And the situation is that, in my idea, this is again only for the people who are seriously struggling with depression and have actually been diagnosed with this even by a doctor, that you actually neurologically or through some proper physiological manner you have a depressive problem, not just you feeling low on a regular day. That's not depression for this particular video's context. So there are certain things which act as triggers, all right, to switch on that worst thing about depression. And that worst thing about depression for me is that as soon as those triggers get activated, everything around me gets superimposed by a dark shadow. And I don't necessarily mean in the visual sense. I mean it in the sense that it's just a little bit of paranoia, it's a little bit of anxiety, it's a little bit of negative. It's like a very heavy negative feeling coming from somewhere and settling down on everything around you, all right? Now that becomes a problem because that alters your state. So let's say right now in your work state, all right, you're at the office and you're somebody who suffers from depression, but like at the same time, let's say your office people do not know, or maybe some people know it, all right? But what happens is that when these triggers get activated and that shadow gets superimposed on everything, that makes you, or rather makes your mind get into a preoccupied state, where what is happening on the physical surface level with your peers, with your girlfriend, or whoever you are interacting with as another human being in your current environment, that gets superimposed by this and messes up a lot of things. What do I mean? One, it messes up the communication between you and that person completely, because you are so preoccupied, you're not actually able to listen. You can hear them, but you cannot listen, all right? Now, when you're in a relationship, when you're at the office with your boss, and in that kind of conversation, if your triggers have been activated, because there are all kinds of triggers. So for me, sometimes I just wake up from a nap and I'm in that state. Like suddenly everything is under that depressive shadow. And that leads to the preoccupied state of mind. So these kind of triggers, first of all, you might need to learn how to identify them so that you can consciously separate the time in the day when you have activated those triggers versus when you need to operate normally with other people and get work done, all right? So that is a different thing. But coming back to what to do once you are actually in the depressive state and that altered state of mind, but you still have to get on with life, you still have to get work done. What I have started doing is that I simply take either a break by being very, very vocal about what is happening to me right now, especially if it's with my close ones. I would tell them that, right now there is something which is really making me preoccupied, and I want to have this conversation. I want to listen to you. There is no fault of yours. What you're saying, I actually care about it, and I want to give it attention and listen. But right now I'm not able to because there's something else on my mind. So if you don't mind, please excuse me for a couple of hours and let me give you a ring back, or let me come back to you and talk about this. And there's a reason why I'm sharing this with you, because I have not had somebody to, maybe because I wasn't taking the therapy. So definitely try out whatever the doctor recommends, and the doctor did recommend therapy to me, but it's just my lifestyle is kind of too busy that I haven't been able to do that. But I do hope to actually sort out this thing. But coming back to why I'm sharing this with you is because it has come into my relationships. Now, that is what happens with depression, that it is such a invisible condition. Like, let's say if you're somebody with a disability in the leg and you need to climb stairs, and obviously that becomes the obstacle in your day. All right, now that has come in the way. But this is an invisible thing. And when it comes in your way of interacting with others, many times people do not realize that it's not them, that depressive reality has taken control right now, and that is why they're perceiving the negative, and that is why they are preoccupied, and you get irritated very easily. When you're under that shadow, you get irritated very, very easily by the smallest things that other people might be doing. But it's not their fault, and we can't put our poison into them. All right, it is our poison, and it is our responsibility to handle that poison by ourselves. And why that is important is because the more you will learn to understand your own psyche, the more you will work at understanding how your own mind works, and when it is working with you versus when it is working against you. Because your mind does not constitute who you are. You have the mind, you have the spirit, you have the ego, you have a bunch of different components running you as an individual entity. We think we are an individual entity, we are connected with everything around us, but if we had to define that individual entity, it is not just your mind. But the moment the mind becomes the controlling version out of every other version of yourself, that is when you're going to start facing problems. So it is very important to continuously understand your own different components and how they are working with you. All right. So that's why I'm sharing this today, because for me it has been a learning literally in the past 2-3 days, where I was able to break through a few more barriers of my own mind, and I understood, okay, I think these situations up until now, I was thinking maybe the problem is with that person, or maybe the problem is with whatever. We obviously love to put the problem on the external reason, but it's not the case all the time. Many times it is because you are messed up in some way or another. And the truth of the matter is, today I think everybody is messed up, all right? But what matters is that at least you can identify, one, that you are messed up, two, not let that affect others around you, because it's not their fault and people have their own shit to deal with, right? So you don't want to throw your poison onto them. Third, after the identification, you got to learn how to sort yourself out, or you got to learn how to talk to yourself, you got to learn how to identify yourself, and you got to be kind to yourself. Because I'm sure you have ambitions, I'm sure you have goals, I'm sure you have desires about wanting a fruitful relationship with somebody, this, that, etc. And this thing comes in the way. But maybe you're not realizing right now that it is coming in the way. So the more you will understand your own psyche, the better you will become at identifying which state is acting when. Because that's what I spoke about in the beginning. That this thing alters your state when those triggers get activated. Sometimes you wake up and you're in that state. Sometimes, let's say somebody, so with me, there was a time when I never used to get bothered by hate comments or online hate or critics, or what do you call trolling? Did you say trolling? So those kind of people, all right, never bothered me. I've had over 400,000 people on our Hindi YouTube channel, and we've had a bunch of controversies in between. Never gave a damn. But there was a time when suddenly these things started acting as a trigger for my depressive state. And I'm not somebody who has ever cared about approval from other people. But I realized that now this is happening to me. All right. Now, when that thing started happening, I realized that, okay, this is a trigger. And after, let's say, I've received that kind of stimulus on my phone, let's say I'm going through YouTube comments, let's say you got a bad email from your boss, and that triggers your mindset of anxiety and nervousness and depression and all of that. But you got to learn how to identify that okay, this thing has started that. So when it has started that, any task which requires all your mental faculties, which requires you to be emotionally intelligent for that task to be done. Let's say with me, it happens when I'm dealing with my team, all right? When I'm delegating tasks, when I'm trying to teach them something, and if they're not able to learn, I might get irritated very soon. But the truth of the matter is, I lose my emotional intelligence when it comes to empathy, etc., etc., etc. You'll understand this for your own context, hopefully. So, after going through that kind of a stimulus, instead of letting it fool your mind, and then your mind fooling you, that force of life who is not wanting to be bad to people, learn how to identify what the mind is trying to do with you. All right. And when you identify that, then it will stop affecting you, because then you will better compartmentalize your day. You will not do those kind of tasks when you are in that state. You will either excuse yourself if you're already in that state, or if you're not in that state, you will want to push that task to a later part of your day. All right. So this is just something which I learned recently. And for me, officially, I've been on the diagnosis for depression for, I don't think I should give out all these personal details, but whatever, quite a few years. All right. And this is my new learning, because I know and I identify as a human being who will be subjected to all of this. And I gotta be kind to my own human nature, that all right, this is a disease affects an organism in a way where it stops being able to function as completely as that organism is supposed to. All right. So I got to be kind with myself, and I got to understand that my biology is in this state something which I can empathize with, and not as superior to my entire self, my spirit, and who I am as a person. And that kindness towards myself, along with learning when to stop which task and how to deal with other people, not deal with them actually in that state, that is something which has helped me recently, and that is something which I wanted to share with you. So that's what my video for today is. On a side note, we launched the Peace Principles poster on the Freeman website. Now, this is something also which I wrote for myself originally, and this was something which I wanted to read first thing in the morning and the last thing at night. And I thought I'll make a poster out of this, and now other people can also do that, because it's like a 5-minute conscious read. You just stand in front of it. If it's on your wall, if it's on your desk, you read it before you begin your day and the last thing before you go to sleep. And it kind of mentally resets you. It allows you to get back into a balanced state of mind, a state of peace of mind, that kind of state. So check that out if you're interested in something like that. And I hope you got something out of this video. Leave your comments below if you have any questions, and I'll see you soon.